run from home. It's all at the Western Bonaventure Hotel, 404 South Figueroa Street in Los Angeles. Friday, 12 to 6, Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 5.
From CSC News around the globe and straight into your television, this is CSC Surveillance Special Investigation with your host, Jack Becker.
I knew what a cult was. I would never join a cult.
I still don't consider it that. It was something else.
We all felt like we needed each other. We were different than everyone else.
We were more aware, and Paul had woken us up.
He changed us.
It's hard to say I regret it. I believed in it. It made me a better person.
If I could take it all back, I would. In a heartbeat.
Join us this Halloween evening for a special investigation on the 1-year anniversary of The Shock.
Paul saw things in a different way. He was fascinating to listen to.
Because of him, I thought new things, in a new way.
I feel like, for the first time in my life, I had become aware of the actual world around me.
I look back on my past as if it were someone else. I cannot justify the actions and the decisions the old me had made.
When it happened, I felt like someone new. I felt clear.
Hello, my name is Jack Becker. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight is Halloween, a night of candy, costumes and fun. But it is also a night of mischief and terror. Tonight's special investigation drives deep into the lives and deeds of a group of college students who exactly 1 year ago occupied a house on Fork Street in Washington State. This was a group of bright young minds, twisted and corrupted, into turning a night to celebrate into a night to fear. Our story begins at the University of Washington in 1976. James Allen and Lucy Hoffa, both dentistry students, meet and fall in love. 2 years on, October the 11th, 1978, at the University of Washington Medical Center, Lucy Hoffa, now Lucy Allen, gives birth to the couple's only child, Paul Allen.
Paul was such a sweet boy. He loved animals and music. And all his teachers said what a wonderful kid he was.
Yeah, he was really a natural charmer too, just like his old man.
As a young man, Paul was, by many accounts, a social butterfly. His charm and charisma were infectious to all who remember him.
Seemed like Paul had a new girlfriend every semester. Man, I never heard a bad thing about the guy. You think with that kind of changeover, it'd be something, but no.
It wasn't just the girls who flocked to him.
He was a likable guy.
Paul was a smart kid. Average student, but a bright kid. I had him in my chemistry course, where he seemed to really find this intense fascination. What he lacked in facts, he made up for in logic. While I was correcting a few of his essays, he had me convinced, for a moment, more than once, that I was wrong.
The year is 1996. Now 17 going on 18, and a recent high school graduate, Paul found himself in search of a new place in life. He gladly found it at the University of Washington, where he pursued a major in chemistry. It was also here in the fall of 1996 that he met fellow chemistry major Timothy Bryce.
Tim was a great young man too. He attended UW with Paul. And that year they came home for Thanksgiving and they really seemed to get along. Paul had a lot of friends that he was never that close with, but Tim seemed to be like a brother. It was amazing.
Paul and Tim were a dynamic team, demonstrating their skill in chemistry at the University of Washington, even going on to win a trophy at the regional team chemistry competition.
They were naturals.
Paul and Tim continued to grow closer over the summer of 1997, moving into a shared apartment. But it wasn't long into their new fall semester when things took a turn for Paul.
One of our professors filed a complaint that Paul had pushed him aggressively during an argument one evening after class. After a short investigation, Paul was let go from the University of Washington for creating a hostile environment. professor decided not to press charges on Paul for the assault. He didn't want such a silly thing to destroy Paul's life like that, but felt it necessary that Paul learn actions have consequences.
Paul Allen was expelled from the University of Washington on October the 10th, 1997. Lucky for Paul, not far from his side was Tim Bryce. The following evening on Saturday, October the 11th, Tim threw Paul a surprise birthday party, which, in light of previous days' events, now doubled as a way to lift his spirits.
It was Paul's birthday, but we also called it the UW party.
Paul really thought that was funny.
It's the fall of 1997. Now 18 years old and expelled from college, Paul sought his next place in life.
Paul was electric that night. I think most of us early on met Paul at the party.
He was telling us all what had happened with the professor. Paul claimed he never touched the guy, but that instead the professor got upset with Paul for speaking his mind.
He was pretty incensed that he was shut down like he was, how his voice had been silenced by the university.
Paul said it was a way of life. We should never come in last or be the one at the bottom. He told us we weren't even aware of the ways we were being controlled and restricted by the society created for us.
Paul said it was up to us to make a change in the system, to shock it.
Paul had sparked a flame that night that would burn cool and steady for nearly a year.
Paul had opened up the sky for us.
We were allowed to speak our minds, voice our opinions, no matter how unpopular it may have been.
Paul taught us to speak like a human in a world full of people.
After that party, a lot of us began to come back to Paul and Tim's place regularly to hang out and relax.
A mixture of alcohol, marijuana, and debate was a great way to relieve stress at the end of the week.
We were provoked to argue all points of view.
A topic was started and people would throw in sides.
Say the topic was war. One side would play the defender, someone else would play the offender. Civilians represented on both sides. Other countries had a voice, as did businesses, both private and public.
Any point of view that was thought up was brought in and argued.
It was a good feeling to have your voice heard, to hear the voice of others, to embrace ideas and twist them and spit them out.
Paul would direct every session,
Jumping people in and keeping the flow of conversation going, asking questions to prod us along.
I found myself at Paul and Tim's place more and more often. It was my second home, first being class.
I had an apartment over nearby, close to Tim and Paul's place, and that became sort of a second home base for everybody. My roommate moved out and searched a more private place, and that worked out just fine for me. A few others. We all became close friends, and they decided it would be in their best interest to save money and shack up together.
we couldn't all keep meeting up in apartments. There was too many of us, and we were too cramped.
Paul and Tim found a house on Fork Street and asked a bunch of us if we wanted to move in. As college students looking to cut costs at every corner, it was a great offer and a lot of us accepted right away.
We ditched our dorm rooms and apartments and flooded into the house. In the first week there was probably 20 or so of us, and every month our number steadily grew.
It was perfect. The house acted as a giant study group. College was our main focus, and the house provided a great incubator for higher learning.
The amount of people living in the house had hit its peak, and it was becoming a real issue, until one day, Paul had an idea.
Paul had announced that we would all learn to sleep sitting up like the monks.
We were each given a 3-foot by 3-foot square that was literally our room.
Everyone began on the perimeter of the room, sleeping up against the wall at first. Then as new recruits moved in, whoever could master it would move to the middle of the room.
It was seen as prestigious to own a square in the middle.
Funny thing is, I think Paul had the hardest time transitioning. But once he got it, he could sleep without so much as a waver.
What a funny sight it would have been if someone had walked into that room as we all sat sleeping like statues.
As a result of the new arrangement, we had to get rid of a lot of our personal belongings.
Something we were more than eager to do. We all talked about this many times, in many ways in those sessions.
Material wealth and the need to sacrifice for the greater good.
Settled into the house on Fork Street, Paul's parents never knew he was expelled from the University of Washington. However, now out of class for the summer of 1998, the occupants of the house on Fork Street turned to drugs to expand their minds and fill their time.
Do you know where the LSD Paul and Tim were supplying came from?
Not initially, no.
But it wasn't long before we started making our own. Paul and Tim started providing acid to us on a daily basis.
It allowed us to access new points of view and open our minds.
Paul and Tim had dedicated the room in their basement for their true passion, chemistry. It is here that the house began to manufacture LSD for their own consumption and to be sold. A practice which helped to financially sustain the needs of the house.
We sold LSD. We shoplifted.
Conned people.
Sold our belongings, everything to bring in money.
I personally had a job, as did a few others. I worked at the mall and didn't earn much, but I wasn't hesitant to throw it all in the pool of money we were generating.
The money, once collected, would be allotted for several things such as food, gasoline, house payment, and other daily needs.
It served everyone well, and we were always able to make do with what we had.
As the drug-induced summer of 1998 raged on, and with more than 40 people occupying the house on Fork Street, its occupants began to feel the effects of their lifestyle.
We had a garden in the backyard where we grew a lot of vegetables. We had taken on a mostly vegetarian diet in order to save up more money.
I was so tired all the time, but it was impossible to do anything about it. I was at the mercy of the house and everything going on. The drugs, the drinking, the debates, our awkward sleeping arrangements.
Paul said his reason for having us do this is to let our minds slip. Lack of sleep will put you in a very different state, and you were able to feel new feelings and experience the world with a different angle.
It was an effective practice. Our debates became deeper and more passionate.
We were getting very restless.
You know, we were eating all these vegetables and salads and selling drugs to earn and save money, but I never asked why. I imagine others knew why, but I never thought to ask.
Life was going okay.
As the summer of 1998 became to a close, Paul, with Tim by his side, began to push the group further. Not satisfied anymore with words, Paul began to encourage the group to take action. As the warm breeze of summer faded into memory, a cold wind crept into Seattle.
We have been getting a lot of reports of trespassing and mischief, and small things.
We started off at first flipping mailbox covers open.
Tilting the side mirrors on cars. Turning hose faucets on.
You are awake. They are not. They don't have the means to wake up. There is no alarm clock for the mind. There is only an escaping window. I helped you through that. We are the writers of history. We write our own. We influence others around us. We can see this as it happens. We can change things to the way we want them. They cannot. We must choose their path for them, guide them into their path.
Paul began lecturing the difference between us humans and those people out there.
He would tell us that other people were simple, and it started to seem that way to me.
I would see my parents and feel like a tugging, draining feeling. The things they would say, the movie-esque mannerisms I would notice.
I noticed just how similar people thought, the predictable way they would react to different events. There was no understanding, no true understanding of what had taken place.
Most people, when they see a fatal train derailment on TV, they change the channel and go on about their lives and think, oh, it's awful, it's so sad. Paul taught us to live. ride that train. To sit down in the seat and look up at the people around you and look out the window as schools and parking lots swept by. Feel the rumble as the train connector pin fractures. And to feel that metal in your mind. And to trace it back to the day it was mined from the earth and how it was chipped out and cleaned up and forged into this crucial piece of equipment on this large-scale human mover. You put yourself deep into the situation and you watch it from a mile away. You ride that train to your death. You feel the jagged metal of the car around you that tears you to pieces. You lie bleeding. You become aware of the child a block away who had heard the screech and the crash, and you see the motorist speeding by a mile away, unaware of what just happened. You see all the scopes and scales and all effects and all the emotions. And you think about this and you feel weak. You feel strong. You feel alive. Paul taught us how to live the lives of others. Take from it what you can, and just throw the rest of the person in the trash. Forget about them, because in their life they weren't important enough to affect yours.
Through death, they served a purpose. It became a story to experience a whole life, summed up by a cause of death.
I'm ashamed now to say that we all thought we were better than everyone else.
5 years ago,
plan. California soft rock.
with less talk.
It is now fall of 1998, and a new college semester had begun. Campuses buzzing and futures being realized. But in that house on Fork Street, the group began to turn inward.
With concern for our drug-riddled mental state and to protect any information about the house, we were told not to speak to anyone.
Only a few senior members were allowed to buy from the store or acted as representatives if someone came knocking at the door. Together we can achieve purpose.
Change our destiny.
And the world.
They are too stupid, and because of their numbers, they hold too much power. We had to either kill them or convert them.
We settled on both.
Do you know where the sarin came from?
No, I never saw where it came from.
Sarin is a colorless, odorless liquid used as a chemical weapon owing to its extreme potency as a nerve agent. It is generally considered a weapon of mass destruction. Production and stockpiling of sarin was outlawed as of April 1997 by the Chemical Weapon Convention of 1993. Sarin can be lethal even at very low concentrations, where death can occur within 1 to 10 minutes after direct inhalation of a lethal dose. Sarin achieves this deadly end through suffocation from lung muscle paralysis. Unless some antidotes, typically atropine, are quickly administered, people who absorb the non-lethal dose but do not receive immediate medical treatment may suffer permanent neurological damage. The manufacture of this sarin gas is quite dangerous. To acquire the two main ingredients necessary would have meant that Paul Allen would have pulled some very special strings. As such, Paul and Tim only allowed a few of the group members to work with them in the lab. Still to this day, however, it is not known the means by which Paul Allen was able to obtain this deadly concoction.
He said the egg is everything. From the egg came life. From life came the egg. Death also came from the egg. And the egg is everything, and the egg is everything.
We would inject the eggs with what he had told us was sarin.
We would take an egg and a large needle with a syringe. A quick jab would puncture the shell perfectly without cracking it. Remove some of the contents, then load up another syringe with the sarin. Fill the egg up and plug the hole with a bit of melted wax.
Tim once said that we were all in this together.
Once we had the stuff, it was too late to remove yourself from it. If you went to the police, you were guilty as well. You would be a criminal in the eyes of those simple people who knew no better.
We need to do this now. We've all come so far.
And there is no time for hesitation.
This country is destroying itself. Politicians are selling us out.
We need to change the minds. We need to shock the system.
Like a defibrillator.
If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
We all die. Whether we want to or not, you will all die.
I will die. They will die.
Give them an important death. Use their name to change the world.
They are the martyrs needed. One day, there was an accident.
It was mainly Tim and I who were handling the eggs. We were up for like 2 or 3 days at that point, and I was tired. I told him I was caving in, and I left him to rest.
I found Tim the next morning.
Next to Tim was a single cracked egg. He must have dropped it by accident.
I don't think it was an accident. Tim ditched us.
Paul was just absolutely devastated. You could see it.
We wrapped Tim in a blanket and buried him in the corner of the yard.
We are the machine. The defibrillator. This world is chaos. We are the machine. We will deliver the shock. We are the machine. And will work as a machine.
On October 24th, 1998, I became aware of a large number of students who were dropping multiple classes or who had dropped out of the university altogether. I managed to track down a few of these students to a house on Fork Street, so I made a trip to the house to see what was going on, to see if there was anything that I could do to help. These were really bright kids, and it was my job to make sure that their time at the University of Washington was a success.
A counselor from the school came knocking. She asked a bunch of questions about who lived in the house, and she rattled off a few names of the students she wanted to speak with. One of those was Tim. I told her I hadn't seen Tim in a while, and that I thought he might have had family troubles or something at home and traveled back to deal with it. And she seemed to buy it all, and she left. When I told Paul, he got real serious, and he told me to make sure all the doors and windows were locked.
Paul claimed the school counselor was not who she claimed to be. He thought the police knew about the drugs.
I didn't know anything about what else they were doing in the laboratory. We were told Tim had flew home to visit family and would be back soon.
We kept Tim's death from the rest of the house.
Paul lost it. He thought the police were watching us.
With a head full of acid, paranoid, and still not satisfied with words over action, Paul planned a night of mischief and horror.
Paul wanted to give the police something else to deal with. Other stuff to investigate so they would not bother us.
Paul's plan was to cause some chaos. And the night to do it was coming up fast. Halloween.
Masked by the crowds and costumes, the house members spilled out into the night to amplify their wave of terror.
We went from tilting car mirrors to slashing tires, from turning on hoses, also sticking them into gas tanks. The goal was to cause so much extra work for the police that they would delay any investigation of us long enough for us to clean up the house of any evidence of the drugs.
We needed time to get rid of the body in the garden.
This was finally it. From words to action. We would see our handiwork come to life in the real world. We'd witness its effects, and we would watch all of those people panic.
We made 24 eggs. Paul had kept a dozen and split the rest up among 4 of us, 3 eggs each.
We all mostly went our own ways. Each had a pair of rubber gloves, a mask, and an atropine kit.
The atropine was a case of accidental exposure on our part. We messed up, as long as we didn't mess up too bad, we should be fine.
I didn't see Paul after that.
It is Halloween night, and trick-or-treating is well underway. The machine is charged, and the shock is about to be delivered.
Paul told us to place them everywhere.
Public transportation.
The library.
The parks.
So we did.
On Saturday, October 31st, 1998, Halloween, 16-year-old Brian Edwards was trick-or-treating with his friends when he was hit by an egg. This, from what we could tell, was the first of the exposures.
A junior in high school and aspiring architect, Brian Edwards would later be found unresponsive at home in his bedroom. He was pronounced brain dead the next morning by doctors and was taken off life support 3 days later.
A woman out for the night with her kids noticed a suspicious individual place an egg near a swing set at a park. After the individual left, she retrieved the egg and placed it in the trash, then called the police to report the vandals.
By about 5 a.m., we had all made our way back to the house. We waited, but Paul never came back.
I don't know where he got the gun. I never saw it in the house.
At approximately 11:32 p.m. on Halloween, one of our uniformed officers spotted a suspicious individual with a carton of eggs walking down near the bus depot. He radioed it in and proceeded to try and stop who he assumed to be the vandal. The suspect pulled a gun and fired at the officer, who returned fire, at which point the suspect turned and ran back behind the building. As our officer approached, he heard a single gunshot ring out.
Paul Allen was declared dead at the scene by the officer, a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. But there was still the matter of the 12 eggs he carried, which was scattered and broken around the body.
Luckily for the officers, those eggs tested negative for sarin. Unlucky for the public, though, who had another 12 eggs out there.
Next morning, we saw in the news they found a body. I knew it was Paul, and he was dead. That was the end of it. It's like the illusion just broke.
What had we done? How was this supposed to help people?
It's okay. All right now. After a couple of conspirators came forward the next day, we were able to initiate a proper investigation into the matter, including roundup, containment, and proper treatment of exposures.
The next morning was very, very strange. We were coming down from the drugs, and nobody was handing them out.
Tim was gone. Paul was gone.
No one was in charge of the house, and even with all of us in it, it felt empty, like a ghost town.
Several of the occupants of the house did flee, but were found and arrested fairly quickly.
Aided by the FBI, local police were able to locate and account for all 24 eggs, which led to 3 more minor exposures, none of which proved fatal.
Surveillance cameras had captured Paul Allen enter a supermarket with his egg carton. He proceeded to switch out each of his 12 eggs into other cartons. We are very lucky that we gained the early intel that we had from the conspirators and were able to retrieve all of those eggs before somebody had bought them. It's amazing. On the video, you can see several customers select a carton of eggs, and each of them just barely misses grabbing the wrong one. It's a miracle.
It was very much that feeling of being sleep deprived. The confusion about it all.
Things were a blur. The whole last year seemed like it was coated in fog. My life during that time played out so fast, it escalated so quickly that I feel like I had no control. I was just along for the ride, but that doesn't excuse my actions.
How did such a bright young group of college students fall so far? What was it that allowed them to show such disregard for society and fellow human life?
I think we get to this point through an alignment of necessary factors, those being isolation from family away at college, drugs, lack of sleep, and personally, what I believe most is youth.
Where did the siren come from? I don't know. I don't think anyone else does either. That secret died with Paul and Tim. But to think that anyone can get this stuff and use it if they want, it scares me. It scares me.
You know, we were goddamn lucky. The chemicals they were working with weren't the best, or it could have been a lot worse.
What I see now is that we were listening to the wrong man. In the short time after Tim's death, it had become apparent that Paul worshipped him. But I didn't see, at the time, Paul thought Tim was the greatest thing in his life. You know, that just adds to how stupid I feel now. I was following the follower. I believed in a sidekick, and this is where it's got me.
I do regret everything 100%.
That poor kid didn't deserve that.
Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Jack Becker.
Baseball is a game of context, a game of
Podcast.